testing is becoming available. And I think there's a very important lesson we can learn from this testing. There are a lot of people who don't have any symptoms. They're asymptomatic. But yet they get tested and they find out they're positive, they're a carrier. On the other hand, there are many people who have symptoms, fever or other symptoms, and they think, I must be carrying the COVID-19 virus. And then they get tested and they find out they're negative. And what this teaches us is a very powerful lesson. In Pirkei Avot, which we study between Passover and Shavuot, there are two statements that seem to contradict one another. One statement says, Al tadin et chavercha at shetagia limkomo. Don't judge another person till you're in their place, in their position. Which in effect is saying is you can never judge anyone because you're never in someone else's position. As the English saying goes, don't judge someone until you're in their shoes. And since no one else is in someone else's shoes, you don't know someone else's life story, you don't know their circumstances, you don't know their character struggles. And therefore, that statement of the rabbis, don't judge another person until you're in their position, would seem to imply that you can never judge anyone. On the other hand, there's a statement in Pirkei Avot that says, Have done et kol adam l'kaf zchut. Judge every single person favorably, which seems to imply that you should judge them, but you should judge them favorably. And the question is, why not stick to the first rule? Don't judge, period. Only God is a judge. As Rabbi Jonathan Sachs once said so beautifully, don't judge others, because if you're right, God will deal with them. If you're right, God will judge them. And if you're wrong, God will judge you. So just refrain from judging others. But yet the rabbis on the one hand say that, but on the other hand they say, judge every person favorably. So which one is it? And there's a story in the Talmud about judging people favorably. The Talmud says that there was a certain individual who lived in the north of Israel, and he went down to the south of Israel, and he worked for someone for 3 years. And after 3 years, was before Yom Kippur, the Talmud says, he said to his employer, it's time for me to go back to my wife and kids. I've earned enough money now, I could support them. Give me my wage for the past 3 years and I'm going to go home to support my family. The man says, I'm sorry, but I have no money to pay you. So the man says, you have no money to pay me? Okay, so pay me with cattle. He says, I have no cattle to pay you with. He says, so pay me with land. He says, I have no land to pay you with. He says, so pay me with produce. He says, I have no produce to pay you with. He says, so pay me with bedding and linens and materials. He says, I have no beddings and linens and materials to pay you with. Says the Talmud, he threw his sack over his shoulder and he went back to his family for Yom Kippur, very sad and heart-fallen. Talmud says after the holidays, after Sukkot, this employer from the south took 3 donkeys, one laden with food, one with drink, and one with delicacies, and he went up to the north, to the Galilee. He went to his former employee's home, and he paid him his full wage for the 3 years, and then he sat down to eat and drink and celebrate with him. And then he said to him over the meal, he says, tell me, when you came to me for payment and I told you I have no money to pay you, what did you think to yourself? And the employee said, when you told me you had no money, I thought that maybe you had a good opportunity to do business, to buy something at a bargain price, and you spent all your cash, so to speak. You have no cash flow because you invested it all in a purchase. He says, okay, and when I told you I have no land, what did you think? He said, I thought that maybe you leased out your land to someone. He said, when I told you pay me in cattle, what did you think? He said, I thought maybe you rented out your cattle to someone. He said, when I told you I have no produce, what did you think? He said, when you told me you have no produce, I thought to myself, maybe you haven't given the tithes from the produce, so therefore you're not allowed to utilize it yet because you haven't given the tithes to the Kohen, the Truma. He said, when I told you I had no material, no linen, no bedding, what did you think then? He said, I thought maybe you dedicated your possessions to the Holy Temple. The Talmud said, the employer said, I want you to know you were absolutely right. I have a son who wasn't learning Torah, he was going in a wayward way, and so I went and I dedicated all my possessions to the Holy Temple. So in the merit of that, he should study Torah. And your assumption was absolutely correct at the time. And the lesson perhaps we could learn from this story in the Talmud is not just that we should judge people favorably, but we should try to attribute a specific reason to our judgments. You see, many times we say, you know what, I don't want to judge him. I don't know, doesn't seem right, it seems like he's done the wrong thing, but who am I to judge? I'll let God judge him. Sometimes we may say, you know what, maybe he has some reason, I don't know. But we learn from the story of the employee is he didn't just say that I thought to myself, he must have some good reason. But he actually attributed a specific reason to the answer of his former employer. He said, when you said I had no land, I figured maybe you leased it out. When you said you had no produce, I figured maybe you didn't give tithes. When you said you had no bedding, I thought maybe you gave it to the temple. When you said I had no land, no cattle, I thought maybe you rented it out. He didn't just say he must have some good reason, but he actually attributed a specific reason in his mind. Why? Because it's much more believable. It's saying, I don't just not going to judge you, but I'm actually going to judge you favorably. I'm going to attribute a reason of how I could understand it. Think of a defense attorney. A defense attorney doesn't just say, I think my client is innocent, or I'm not going to judge my client. A defense attorney comes up with specific rationales and explanations and storylines to explain the defendant's actions to the jury or to the judge. And that's what it means to judge people favorably. To judge people favorably is, and many times the Talmud uses the word sanegeria, which means that you have to be like a defense attorney. Try to come up with a reason that's believable, that could be beyond a reasonable doubt in a courtroom, so to speak, how you could judge the person favorably, because then the positive judgment will be more accurate. And I think this whole testing situation could help us in this area, because sometimes you may be asymptomatic. First of all, you may not realize that what you see in someone else, you may be a carrier of that same fault as well. You may be positive in that area. You may be testing positive, so to speak. Just because you don't feel that you are also culpable in that area. Someone said when you point a finger towards someone else, you point 3 fingers back at yourself. So don't be so quick to judge others. You may be a carrier, so to speak. You may be one who possesses that same fault. But furthermore, just because you see symptoms in someone doesn't mean they're testing positive. You may assume that what you see is being judged so-and-so. Oh, this person looks like they have COVID-19, they have certain symptoms. But the test reveals they don't have it. So it just shows us how we're incapable of truly judging another person. And the rabbis were correct when they said, don't judge others because you don't know their position. That's the first thing. But second of all, don't just do that. Go even further. Judge them, but give them a favorable, positive judgment. And it says that the students of Rabbi Akiva who died during this period was because they didn't respect one another and they misjudged each other. And therefore, one of the lessons we have to incorporate and internalize and inculcate in our character during these days as we approach Lag BaOmer, as we mourn the students of Rabbi Akiva's passing, is that we should be slow to judge others, if ever. Only time we can judge others is if it's absolutely required for safety or for protection or for making a decision that's going to benefit someone. But generally speaking, it's not for us to judge. Again, quoting Rabbi Jonathan Sachs that says, don't judge others, because if you're right, God will judge them. And if you're wrong, God will judge you. And our rabbis indeed say that one of the ways to merit a favorable judgment to God is when you judge others favorably, because God always acts measure for measure, and therefore if you judge other people favorably, God will grant you favorable judgments, and vice versa if you judge people negatively. One of the most powerful stories about judgment is a story about the Ksav Sofer. The Ksav Sofer was a rabbi who lived in the 1800s in Pressburg, and he was a great rabbi, and the government had made certain laws against Jewish education, and one day they relieved them of these injunctions, and the Jewish community was able to take control of their own educational system, and it was a big joyous occasion. And the Ksav Sofer, Moshe Sofer, threw a big celebration in his home to celebrate the verdict of the government and that in Bratislava that they could have their own educational system. And the greatest rabbis of the time came to his home to celebrate. when they came to his home to celebrate during the feast, the Ksav Sofer said, you know, I want to show you something very special in honor of this occasion. And he opened up a box and he opened up a pouch and unwrapped this beautiful coin. And he took out this gold coin and he said, you see this coin? This has been passed down from generation after generation in my family. It's one of the greatest treasures I possess. It is a coin that dates back all the way to the temple times. To the temple times. And all the rabbis were in awe to see a coin that was utilized all the way back in the temple times. And they started to pass it around so everyone could hold it and look at it and examine it. And as they're passing it around, everyone's talking, and finally the Ksav Sofer says, can I have the coin back? And suddenly everyone looks around and I don't know where it is. Do you have it? Do you have it? Suddenly the coin disappeared. Ksav Sofer turns white. This coin that was in his family for thousands of years, and now it's lost. He couldn't believe it. He had the greatest rabbi sitting around his table. He said, please, everyone look around. Everyone looked on the table, here, there. Nobody could find it. Finally, Ksav Sofer says, I'm sorry to have to do this, but if everyone could please check their pockets just in case somehow it ended up in someone's pocket. I don't suspect anyone, but maybe it fell. Please check your pockets. Everyone empties their pockets. The coin is not in anyone's pockets. Finally, the Ksav Sofer says, I'm so sorry to have to do this. And please, I don't suspect anyone, but just in case, I'm going to ask everyone to turn to their neighbor next to them at the table and examine their pockets. I don't think anyone's a thief, but just in case, if everyone could check their neighbor's pockets. Suddenly one great rabbi at the table says, please, I don't think we should do that. Let's wait 15 minutes or so, maybe the coin will appear. Ksav Sofer, out of respect for this rabbi, said, okay, if you want us to wait 15 minutes, we'll wait 15 minutes. So they carried on with their conversation. After 15 minutes, the coin is still missing. Everyone looked around on the tables and they can't find it under the table. So the Ksav Sofer says, I have to repeat my request. To everyone should look in their neighbor's, the person sitting next to them, pocket to see if the coin is there. Again, this rabbi says, please, I'm begging you, let's not do that. Let's wait another 15 minutes. Maybe the coin will appear. They wait another 15 minutes. The coin still doesn't appear. Finally, he says, please, one more time. Wait another 15 minutes. Let's not check each other's pockets. And everyone around the table is looking at this rabbi and thinking, what is he afraid of? It was unimaginable that this rabbi would steal the coin, but why does he keep on postponing the searching in other pockets? What's there to be afraid of? As the 15 minutes were nearing the end in the third round, suddenly the attendant from the kitchen comes running in, bursts open the door, and he says, I found the coin, I found the coin. Everyone looked at the attendant and said, where did you find it? He said, I'll tell you. He says, while everyone was looking at the coin, I started cleaning up the table and I was throwing things in the garbage. When I heard that the coin was missing, I said, maybe by mistake, someone left it on the table and I threw it accidentally into the garbage. So I went through the trash and I found the coin, and here's the coin. And the Ksav Sofer was overjoyed. He was relieved. He grabbed the precious coin and he was so thankful. But then they turned to this rabbi and they said, Rabbi, obviously you didn't steal it, God forbid. We found it was in the garbage, but why did you keep on postponing the search for the coin in other people's pockets? And this rabbi said, let me tell you why. And he put his hand into his pocket and he took out an identical coin. And he said, I want you to know that in my family we also have an heirloom that was passed down from generation to generation, a coin from temple times. And tonight when I heard there was this great celebration, I said, you know what? Let me bring it to the feast to show all the rabbis this beautiful coin that was passed down from generation to generations. They should see and experience to see this amazing coin that dates back so many years. He said, I had it in my pocket, and then suddenly you say you have such a coin, and I'm thinking, well, I have the same coin. And he brought the same kind of a coin to the feast. When the coin went missing, you said everyone should search their pockets. I searched my pocket. I knew I had one coin that I brought with me. So I said, I don't have your coin. But then when you said everyone should search everyone else's pockets, I said, oy gewalt. They're going to put my hand in my pocket. They're going to find the coin. They're going to think I stole it. And everyone is going to accuse me of being a thief. And there'll be no doubt in anyone's mind, he stole the coin. And my reputation will be destroyed in an instant. Forever, people will judge me that I stole the coin of the Ksav Sofer, and I'll be condemned, and my whole life's work and reputation will be ruined and destroyed. And so I said, please wait 15 more minutes. And I started to pray to God. I said, God, please, you know I'm innocent. You know I bought this coin from my house. Don't allow me to be so shamed and humiliated in public now in front of all these great rabbis, my colleagues, that they'll think I'm a thief forever. After 15 minutes, the coin wasn't found. I said, please, let's postpone it 15 minutes more. And I prayed harder. And then finally, the third time, I said, God, this is my last chance. If in 15 minutes they don't find the coin, I will be accused and condemned eternally. Help me, God, that they should find the coin. And thank God they found the coin. And now nobody will judge me and think that I'm a thief. The Ksav Sofer turned to everyone at the table and he said, I believe that the real reason God brought us together tonight for this celebration is not what we thought it was, that we came together to celebrate the government's ruling that we could control our own Jewish education in our town, in our cities. But I think the reason is God wanted to teach us the most important lesson of all. Never judge another person. Always judge a person favorably. Imagine, could anyone have come up with such a favorable judgment? Had they found it in his pocket, you know what? Maybe he had a coin just like that, an identical coin that dates back thousands of years that was passed down in his family, and on the very same night that the Ksav Sofer bought it, he thought to bring the same coin, and maybe he's innocent. Such a wild defense. Who would think of such a defense? But yet that would have been the truthful defense had he been found with the coin in his pocket. And what it goes to teach us is how correct the rabbis are. First of all, you shouldn't be in a position to judge others. God is the only true judge. But on the contrary, judge favorably and come up with a reason to explain someone's actions. So you don't just say vaguely, I'm sure they had a reason. No. Come up with a specific reason, like a sangaria, like a defense attorney, so you could live with an understanding in your mind that this person is truly good and truly innocent. And if we live our lives in that way, that we always see the good in others and we judge people favorably, then we will have learned the lessons of the students of Rabbi Akiva and be worthy to receive the Torah in Shavuos when the Jewish people rested, Ki'ish Achad, like one person, Belev Achad, with one heart, with perfect peace and unity. Have a wonderful day.